When I was growing up, I spent many Sunday afternoons at my Peepaw's house. That was my mother's father. Peepaw lived on the West Bank in New Orleans, where you could get a lot more house for the money. His house was a late 60s, mid century modern with black and white terrazzo floors, a swimming pool in the back, and a great big dining room table with those deep swivel barrel chairs that were popular in the 1970s. On Sunday, our family and whatever extended family was around would go over to Peepaw's for macaroni and gravy. We never called it pasta or even spaghetti and meatballs. Peepaw made gravy. This is what we called it, and it was legendary. Gravy begins by browning tomato paste until it becomes the tomato equivalent of a roux in Cajun cooking, until it's so dark and thick it moves in a semi-fluid mass like waves of lava across the bottom of the pan. Add a ridiculous amount of beef and Boston butt, add a zillion tomatoes, cook for an eternity, and you've got gravy. It was never defiled with sugar. Its sweetness came naturally through the process, its acids balanced by some far superior alchemy. There were no extraneous vegetables, no mushrooms, no celery, no, God forbid, carrots, but there was garlic. Gravy was the soul food of my childhood, and the fact that I enjoyed it so much, the fact that I innately knew the difference between it and the other people called spaghetti sauce, the fact that I could tell the difference, this was evidence, proof, in fact, that despite my red hair, I was, in fact, part of a very special group, a magical and rarefied people, the Italians. Now, Peepaw could cook more than gravy. He made everything, and he'd drink his Tanqueray from his highball glass, and he would sing along with the kitchen radio, and he would make magic happen. And before my mom died, and when she was sick, and perhaps even more so after she died, those Sunday afternoon meals, me in a swimsuit with a towel under my bottom so I wouldn't get the chair wet, well, they nourished me. They nourished all of us. When Mary, Peepaw's third wife, got sick with cancer, our Sunday dinners stopped as the challenge of caring for her took more and more time. And so Peepaw didn't cook so much anymore. And then after Mary died, there was a period of time when Peepaw didn't cook at all. Mary and Peepaw had known each other when they were kids, but they hadn't found one another as partners until later in life. She had never married, and he had 2 miserable marriages behind them. But in their late 50s, Mary and Peepaw had this sort of grand romance, just in the nick of time. And so Peepaw, he took her passing so hard, and we worried about him, and we worried that all of this grief would just take him down. But then one Sunday we got the call. Peepaw's making gravy. Y'all come over and bring your swimsuit. And I knew, and I think that we all knew then, that Peepaw was okay, that he was going to be okay, and that maybe we were all going to be okay. And we ate the proof of it gathered around that table. We ate macaroni and gravy, which was really penne and bolognese. And along with each soul-edifying bite, yeah, we swallowed some sorrow, but we tasted joy again, all the same. Now, Simon Peter's mother-in-law was in bed with a fever, and they told him about her at once. He came and took her by the hand and raised her up. Then the fever left her, and she began to serve them. As Jesus' ministry takes him across the countryside, he has many healing encounters along the way. The paralytic man whose friends lower him through the roof, the man with the withered hand, Jairus' daughter, the boy who is convulsed by a demon, along with our story from today. At each of these events, Mark's gospel uses the verb to raise up. The paralytic man is told to rise up, pick up your mat. Jesus tells the man with the withered hand to come forward, rise up, so he can be cured. For Peter's mother-in-law, Jairus' daughter, and the convulsing boy, Jesus will take a hold of their hand and raise them up himself. Mark's gospel is tied together with all of these little risings, people who Jesus raises up, people who rise at Jesus' command. And so these stories are not just healing stories, but snapshots of resurrection. In Mark's gospel, Jesus' resurrection isn't the climax of the story the way that it is in the other gospels. In Mark, resurrection is more of a here and a now thing, a reality made possible by the love and compassion of Jesus. From the very beginning of Jesus' ministry, resurrection has been happening all along, all through the gospel, from the moment he began proclaiming the good news. And the story of Peter's mother-in-law is the first in a series of resurrection revelations, and it is paradigmatic of what is to come. Peter's mother-in-law is sick with a fever and bedridden. Now, if you've ever been really sick, even if it's just a bad cold, you recall the ways in which an illness can cut you off from your life. Everything just sort of stops. You're unable to tend to the work that gives your life meaning and purpose. You may be isolated from relationships, and it's like the whole beautiful cosmos shrinks down very small, and your vision narrows, and simply being is a struggle. Jesus goes to Peter's mother-in-law, and with the touch of his hand, he restores her. He restores her to her relationships, to community, to her work, to the patterns and rhythm that give meaning to her life. She responds by serving them, by entering into the work of her life, but this time with a twist. Now she is serving Jesus, whose love raised her up, whose love brought her out of death and into life. She understands immediately, instantly, what the disciples take forever to comprehend. You may recall the disciples pestering Jesus about who will be the greatest. And Jesus tells them that if one wishes to be great, one must become a servant to others. And then speaking about his own ministry, he said, "For the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many." Peter's mother-in-law does what Jesus does. She serves. The true disciple, the one who really gets it, the one for whom the kingdom comes near, is the one who serves. The one who, having been raised up and brought back to life by a love that knows no bounds, receives the wisdom of the resurrected. The wisdom of the resurrected. That is when, having descended to the dark, to the dead, to hell even, we receive its many lessons. From our sorrow, from limit and finitude, from tragedy and loss, even death, there are treasures to be taken, wisdom to be gathered, and then, by the love of Jesus, we rise. We receive the gift of being again, this time with a twist, with an unwavering gratitude for our one and only precious life, as Mary Oliver would say. The only thing to do after one is raised from the dead is to get back to living, get back to loving, get back to being a part of what God is doing. The only thing to do after being raised from the dead is to serve the love that raised you. Now, everyone in my family knows how to make gravy, but no one does it quite like Peepaw. We have our theories as to why. Maybe he withheld some secret ingredient. Maybe it was the Tanqueray. Maybe it was something in his sweat or his singing. When my grandfather died, my Aunt Sheila took the frozen plastic containers of gravy from his freezer. Many of them were past the point of being edible, but she warmed them on the stove anyway so that she could smell it, so she could breathe in the love and the comfort that he served to us over and over again. A love that was strong enough to bear more than his fair share of sorrow, and brave enough to taste life again. My brothers and sisters, we are resurrection people. May the love of Jesus forever raise you up and restore you, and may you serve the one who makes it so with your one precious life.